And we're back. Your favorite fitness influencer, fitness industry plants are here. A fitness industry plant. Like, the girl Bobby we talked about with the really good podcast, people calling her a plant
Definitely.
because all of a sudden she has an interview with every major
Everybody.
rapper and influencer and person of Drake,
Drake,
Funny
Yachty,
Marco.
Tyga.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
Drake FaceTimed the little Yachty on the interview and called her Bobs like they were best friends. Where did she come from? Who is she and who is she working for?
How Drake called her Bob's? Why am I jealous?
Like a nickname from Drake? Are you kidding me? Why doesn't he call me Mikey Poo?
Ascended. I would straight up ascend. If Drake, imagine picking it, you're talking to a girl. Well, it doesn't really apply to you. You're talking to a girl. Drake calls, "What's up, Mike's? What's happening, buddy? Miss you." Like, yeah, I gotta like that. Drake's calling me. So where did Bobby? I mean, hey. So this is the parallel for the fitness industry. We're the plants. Well, now why would we be a plant, Michael? You want to let them know why we'd be a plant?
Because we're here to shatter the foundation of what you believe and perceive about health and nutrition, and we're blowing up out of nowhere. I'm speaking that into existence.
I was also going to say a plant. The agenda, a plant, I think is actually not positive.
Oh
A
yeah, it's
plant,
derogatory in nature.
a plant is, I think, someone. It's like a snitch, someone who's there to collect info or begin to influence a certain way on purpose, but not for a positive cause. I think it has to do with like psychops more than anything as a plant, like to psychologically manipulate people into believing certain things. And I think what we're doing maybe we may be manipulating people into thinking they have a shot at getting
We're
fit.
we're snitching on the FDA. We're snitching on big food. We're snitches, but in a good way.
I
We're
was going to
snitches for
go the
you.
other direction. I was
What?
going to say we're giving people false hope. We're a part of the agenda.
Oh yeah,
We're
that's
the no, no, no. We're fitness plants. As in, we're here to tell regular people who like heard in our voice, I might have a shot at being fit. They're right. I may actually have my fittest me in there somewhere. It's actually just a game. We're kidding. We're here to give you false hope so that you waste your time and waste your efforts, which is what the FDA wants you to do. They want you to be confused. Which, if you couldn't remember, our motto here at this podcast at Fit Friend Fat Friend is whatever the FDA does and whatever they say to do, you better believe you better be doing the opposite of it. Okay, we're back. We're back. We're back. The plants have this is a deep psych op. We're just confusing you. We're here to make you think you got a chance, but really, it's actually just for fitness people. Fitness people are the only people who were born allowed to be fit. If you didn't wake up with a six pack, sorry, it wasn't for
yeah.
you. You were right. You were right. No, no
Take it
chance.
from two people who are 50 to 60 pounds overweight each. Abs are not for you. It's not possible. I was only fat my whole life, and now I have abs. I don't. It's not possible. It can't be done.
Yeah. And you know what? It's going to be interesting in this episode. We have two things we want to talk about. One, we have actually, I think this is worthy of a congratulations. I think if we're really making a mark in what we're doing, we're going to be one, hated by a group of people. Like we're going to come off the wrong way. And also, I think there's a little bit of success in the fact that we may end up on a watch list in the most healthy way possible. By definition, the most healthy way possible. In the sense that we're trying to literally underroot and undermine the base state of confusion that we would say and assert that the known and unknown establishment is trying to impose on the common person. Like literally, I think what the FDA and what most of our major national health organizations are trying to push is really just mass confusion.
Yep.
And to know, the funny thing is, it starts with what? Money and power, money and influence, money and control. Oh, we're going to get deep. I can feel it. And in
Yep.
fact, at a certain point in the episode, Michael brought up some notes from a conversation that I had about 3 weeks ago, where we just sat in frustration and went, we have this view of health, and we got it through certain epiphanies and certain connections. But how do we share it to other people? How do we actually relay it in a way that we learned it, in a way that is able to crystallize all of the fundamental things that we got? And how do we say it in plain English to the point where people go, wait a second, they might actually have a point. Things might have actually just clicked, and my mindset may have actually just changed. So, Michael, I think the notes on this sheet
Mm-hmm.
are called How Do We Wake People Up?
That's the header. And for those of you watching on YouTube, it's like that Always Sunny meme where he's got the whiteboard behind him and he looks all
Yeah,
sleep
yeah.
deprived. That's kind of how my notes look right now. But the header is how do we wake people up? Because I think if there's one thing I've come to find is more true than ever for me in partnering with you and talking to you more, is I always did the physical things. I always understood that physical fitness started with your physical habits, but it really starts in your perspective and your perception of the world around you. And we know there's such a thing as woke, but we're going to talk about how to get you woke from a nutritional perspective, how to wake you up to all the bullshit, the lies, and the confusion that are being spewed and propagated to you every day. And that's where our notes come in here, and where I think we're going to dive into a great rabbit hole of wonderful enlightenment for those of you that listen to this episode. We're excited to share it with you. Anything to add?
Yeah. I think that pairs part with how we started the episode with some of our exciting news
Mm-hmm.
as to how we just ended up on a watch list potentially, or we're one step closer to ending up on a watch list, which in I think in health is one of the best things that you could do. It's one of the greatest indicators of success. Is to end up on a little bit of a, hey, what are those guys doing though? No, 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 we don't like that. And
Yeah,
it sounds, I think that, so not to get full of ourselves, but for those of you that follow us on TikTok and Instagram, which is I think a true marker of intelligence is to follow. I'm just joking. We can tell you've got great sense of humor, obviously, if you follow us. But you also are more curious to learn about what's going on in everybody's fucking brain and body. Like what's actually going on, because we are all so similar, and yet at the same time also all very, 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 very unique. Um, so a development that we've got, it's our pleasure and our exciting privilege to be able to share and announce we have gotten in partnership with the very, I would say, tool that is going to dethrone the wrongfully throned food pyramid. Oh my god. So for those of you who follow us, you've probably seen us post or interact with something called the nutrient density chart. So what's the nutrient density chart? It's one, a physical chart, but I think it's the beacon of really this. It's the beginning of the answer key to our confusion on food. What's food good? What's good for us? What's bad for us? We have clients who, even in their first week, will go, "Oh, I thought strawberries were bad for me because of the sugar." And we're like, "Whoa, pause. We were eating like a full pizza like a week ago, but we think sugar is bad. We think strawberries are bad, like real fruit. No, 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 no." And that's to no one's fault or no one's discredit. It really is just that confusing right now. So this is what we're going to shed light on, and this is the cool and profound. So actually, the guy that we spoke with, would you actually like to tell us a little bit more about, or share a little bit more about Frank's? So a guy's name is Frank, who created the nutrient density chart. One, as to what it is, and then
yeah.
also two, I guess, what this might mean for people in relieving them of their confusion in the future.
Sure. Frank is the creator of the nutrient density chart, and Yusuf and I obviously are aligned as business partners ourselves from the amount of passion that we have for what we do and a genuine desire to fight the never ending uphill battle of informing the uninformed on how to get ripped, and that vitality is theirs for the taking. And in talking
Mm.
to Frank, it was more than apparent that we were aligned from that perspective. Just to give you guys a little insight, we both have a copy of the chart, the nutrient density chart. It was a big laminated printout that he was kind enough to send us that objectively, unbiased ranks the foods of the earth based on their nutrient density down to granular details that even I didn't know were a way you could measure and perceive a food. And
Mm.
in talking to him, we made very clear very quickly that he wants to fight the same battle we do. That he wants to
Yeah.
educate the uninformed with unbiased, high quality knowledge. And to give you guys some insight on this, Frank filled us in that it took him 11 years of total time of his life and 7 years of actual time on task, time working to build the chart. the only thing I've done for 7 or 11 years is eat and breathe and
Exist.
exist and maybe use the bathroom. Like, I haven't done anything of meaning for that long yet in my life. So it was baffling to hear that this vision of his started when I was 15 years old. Well, 16 years old ish now, today being my birthday, but truly incredible to be able to talk with him and see what he's built. In doing that, he has taken all of the foods that the earth provides as whole natural foods and has ranked them from most nutrient dense to least nutrient dense in specific categories. One of the biggest takeaways I found, I don't know about you, was that this really solidifies the argument that if you want a nutrient dense balanced diet, there's got to be some animal foods, including the egg, which is the king of all foods. If you look
Mm,
at this chart, I mean, it is
mm.
first place, first place, first place, first
It
place,
is.
and it's truly nature's multivitamin. So, sorry,
Mhm.
vegans, if you're listening to this and you're triggered, I don't know what to tell you. Please don't unfollow us. We hope to still help you too.
Yeah. One thing that I think that may be the part that permeates people's daily life is this one very obvious and apparent fact. And it's that the answers are objectively out there as to what will absolve you of confusion, bodily and mental pain and discomfort. We say this all the time, even with things like honey. Because what the first misconception people have on a diet, quote unquote, is that it needs to be one miserable and it needs to suck, which we can attest. We agree that burning body fat can be uncomfortable. Yes. But
Yes.
it does not need to be a journey that makes you weaker. That's really what people feel when they diet. They feel weaker in almost every sense, energetically a little bit, because they're removing this profound sense of like joy they get from foods that are rich in carbs and fat, which are one of the greatest mood enhancers. We're aware of the power that it has. But one thing that I think that this gives people, and one of the we say this all the time, because people think they have to be miserable and weak in dieting. Nonsense. If we just start with the bare basics as to what this planet came with before we started pushing our agendas of what people should be eating for our pocketbooks, and this is where we're going to go to the rabbit hole of how to wake people up. The main point is things like honey and milk with real natural sugar in it, fruit, is proof that you don't have to be miserable while fueling yourself. And that's the greatest misconception people have, is that they have to be confused, weak, hangry, miserable while burning body fat. They must restrict themselves from pizza and this and that. No, 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 no. There's this really famous tweet and quote people talk about a lot. We've been eating junk food for so long that eating real food is perceived as dieting.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got it flipped. It's completely flipped, and it's going to sound extreme for a little bit, but what we're hoping, one, through the partnership with the nutrient density chart, is that we're really going to be able to mainline fundamental proof that you can be happy while fueling yourself, and you will be able to tell an exact energetic difference just through being able to, you guessed it, nourish yourself properly. That's the big game. And the whole game of eating is to gain energy. That's the whole point of why a cheetah hunts. It's to gain energy from this prey, right? So we're eating, it's obviously a primal thing. It's an essential piece to our existence, but also it's also one of the trickiest relationships that I feel the human has, especially the modern day human, who's confused as to what body fat percentage is, what's a healthy meal, what's not a healthy meal. We love to say this one simple statement: when in doubt, earth it out. Did it come from the ground? Did it have parents? Was it alive? Was an Oreo alive? No, absolutely not. So this is where, like, why would you expect to feel energy eating an Oreo? It was never alive. This is just muck of that we made. It's delicious, but we made it. As compared to 3 giant fistfuls of blueberries that when you eat after, I've eaten blueberries to failure. I've gotten the munchies, and guess what I took it out on? Blueberries. And guess who was happy as a motherfucker after eating 3 giant handfuls of blueberries? I had never felt full, and then also simultaneously had a smile on my face.
Yep.
Once I had blueberries to failure, I was like, I'm happy. Like, this feels amazing. Like, I don't
Yeah.
feel crumble full. I feel blueberry full. like the girl from Willy Wonka talking about. She's
rolling down the hallway.
yeah, I was like really happy. So anyway, our point is the excitement what we have about this nutrient density chart and us getting aligned with Frank. Frank shared a cool story with us that this is the final piece we'll make on it, because I think just bringing awareness to the fact that answers exist is a huge relief to a lot of people, because it eliminates the confusion. If I thought strawberries were bad, nonsense, absolutely nonsense. And all we're saying is I'm very confused, which is fine. If you ever say I thought strawberries or eggs or butter or whole milk or almonds or nuts were bad for me, this is for you, because that's absolute nonsense. And I'm glad that you said that, because it brings awareness to the fact everyone is confused. It's not your fault. This has been pushed before you. This is not your, it starts way before you. So we'll get into that. But I'm hoping most importantly, this provides relief to a lot of people.
Yes.
We're really excited to share some of our exciting developments that are going to come with that. Michael, do you want to tell me a little bit more about actually what within that we're going to add to it? Maybe even?
Yeah. So I think the takeaway from the nutrient density chart, basically, that I found within 5 minutes of looking at it was, if everybody just made 90% of their diet these foods that span the top 3 to 5 categories.
There's a grading list. There's a proprietary grading list, a grading scale for how potent those foods are in the micronutrients and macronutrients that give us the most energy. Yeah.
Yep. And when you satiate yourself, or when you prioritize macronutrients such as protein from foods that are dense in micronutrients like vitamins and minerals, you naturally regulate your appetite, which is why I thought, wow, if people just made their diet all of these whole natural foods, eggs, liver was in there a ton. It's not the tastiest, but boy, is it nutrient dense. Beef, just animal protein sources. It would be so hard for people to be fat, sick, tired, low energy, digestive issues. And however, Yusuf and I are seeing this from a different lens, a different dimension, because we've been at this game for so very long that we're more intuitive than the average person, that we seek to educate on our mission to fight this uphill battle. Some of you listening, there's not a ton of tangible, actionable insights you can take from the chart itself. You sort of have to draw conclusions from it. And as we said from episode 1, and we will sustain for the remainder of the episodes, we drive and aim to give you actionable, practical insights that you can take home with you and implement today. In doing that, in our partnership with Frank and the nutrient density chart, we plan to build something incredible and practical that integrates with the information on the nutrient density chart that can turn into practical applications for you. And I'm getting a smile on my face thinking about it, because we birthed the idea, and we're going to get in Canva, and we're going to get deep in the weeds, and we're going to build something 10 times cooler than the FU24 fitness chart. I mean, I am stoked for that. So that's a little bit of insight into how we're going to
make you motherfuckers so goddamn fit against your goddamn will. You're going to be so happy and so energized. For those of you listening on Spotify, I am holding my fingers up like a gun to the camera.
Respectfully
threatening you into wellness.
We're threatening
why
you
we do what we do.
into waking the hell up. And that's what we're also going to talk about today, is how to wake the hell up. Yusuf and I got into this conversation we talked about at the beginning of the episode, and above the title I mentioned, how do we wake people up, I just have written flow, creative conversation, because we just started ranting. I don't even know if we were on Zoom. We may have been on Riverside here recording the podcast. And we just started talking about, what's the big question here? What are we really trying to solve for? And it's waking people up. It's getting them away from that grains are the foundation of your diet. That's 0.4 grams per pound of protein of your body weight is the optimal amount. Yeah, if you want to stay fat, sick, and dumb, that's how you do it. So we've also both firmly believe, Yusuf, that it starts here in the mind. It doesn't start in the body. The physical acts are part of it, but it starts with how you see the world. Now, the way we broke it down in a rudimentary way, this probably won't be the final format we go with, was in my notes, I have a circle on the left and a circle on the right. And it says you, the listener, are here on the left. Then it says we, me and Yusuf, are here on the right in different galaxies, what we call the bitch galaxy and the badass galaxy. Now that's goofy. It was just a way to assign asleep, awake. The journey exists on the transcendence between those dimensions. We talk about billionaires who say money doesn't matter, say that because they exist in a dimension that we just don't understand. They've been places we can't with their wealth. We have been places on our fitness journey, have maintained a physique and a mindset for so many years that you just transcend a little bit. You see the world differently. So what happens? How do we bridge the gap? How do we get the average person there. That's what we're trying to do. Now, I have some things written down, but some of this is going to come fresh off the dome from both of us. So I'm curious, Yusuf, the way we were formatting it is, what are the absolute truths or the questions we have to ask ourselves to bridge that gap? What would you
Oh
say
man,
is a
I just got an
beginning?
erection.
We may have to cut that. My family listens to this.
I'm not.
All right, he's
Your
leaving it
family is
in.
gonna. I. This is. It was a positive thing, and it was really.
It was a
It really
positive
was a peak
erection.
of. It was a energetic. It was excitement and peak. So at the beginning of this is self awareness and self actualization. So one of my favorite quotes. You said something about the two different dimensions in the process, right? And then you said the physical is almost kind of like after, and so it begins with the mind, which is I completely agree. And there's this quote that says, frequency precedes form. So we communicate right now via our throat, mouth vibrations. Like I'm vibrating hot air, right? So we as human beings communicate and connect by virtue of our literal throat vibrations. If I'm anxious and nervous, I vibrate differently. If I'm excitable and happy and enthusiastic, I vibrate differently. And humans are vibratory creatures. So I said self awareness starts at the beginning, and I actually want to make an amendment to one of could you put maybe even on that first galaxy, the quote unquote bitch galaxy, unintentionally might even be like I was going to say victim, but it's almost like this: you haven't taken full grasp over your own dimension or reality yet. And it's kind of where, like, at first we still see ourselves as victims of circumstance that happened to us, as opposed to the inverse. That's one way I like to look at it too. Simply because, and with self awareness, I say self awareness is at the root of it, and frequency precedes form. Because if the individual, one solo human being, is aware of their vibration and what form they take, they can then begin the steps towards progress. And progress is improvement in some way towards their health, their mental well being, their livelihood, their relationships, their finance, all of these things. So I love that you said it begins with the mind. And a lot of people, in some ways, this is the thing I hear the most when people talk about what makes them change, what inspires them to change. The most common thing that I hear before a beautiful transformation is that I felt like I was a passenger in my own life and I didn't recognize myself. Like the very soul inside the body did not recognize the exterior because they know their strong suits as a soul. Someone may see that they're caring, strong, courageous, empowering to other people, positive, yet the physical manifestation they're aware isn't up to where they feel they should be. It's not at that like 5.0, 6.0, 7.0, 10.0 version of them yet. And so I think that what precedes that embarking on the transformation is self-awareness at first. What triggers self-awareness usually at first is fucking pain. And it's being uncomfortable. So it's almost kind of like, and there's this book called Outwitting the Devil, where it talks about this macro view of the world, space, purpose, faith, fulfillment, fear, anxiety, basically what positive and negative thought do to the world and the humans at scale, and how it all is intertwined and interwoven, and how it's all connected. So in Outwitting the Devil, it talks about one of the most one, obviously we've spoken before, pain is one of the greatest instigators of change, but it's because what it does to the person is it breaks them out of what is called habit. And so have you ever heard like your thoughts become your words become your actions, and your actions become your habits.
And your habits
And
become your identity.
yes, absolutely. And your results and your identity twofold. Um, and with quote unquote habit and what happens when pain breaks us apart, it basically shakes. It's called a hypnotic rhythm. So the premise of Outwitting the Devil, he talks about how hypnotic rhythm is essentially what carries human forward, and it can work to your benefit or it can work to your detriment. This is basically where you can see where bad habits catch up to you, and all of a sudden then you get your girlfriend or someone saying you don't look the same, or you think that they say that, or you take a photo and you go, that's not me. Those moments of pain where you see the disconnect in your actions and your habits from what you really believe that you should be and could be doing is one of the most painful yet always enlightening experiences that puts the person on the path,
Mm-hmm.
because it gets them to self-check and they go, there's an incongruence here with what I feel my form, frequency, and state should be and how I'm really showing up. So that was a lot there to unpack in some way, but I'm hoping that on the receiving end, some people are able to get a healthy view, playing field of, I don't want to say their choices, but of time, just straight up time.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to segue into something else past that. What do you think
Well,
about that?
we we wrote down a bullet list when we were talking that I'm looking down at now, and it's bullet format for more of a talking point, but we had written accept X objective truths because we weren't sure how many there are, and it's probably a
Mm,
growing list. And right now I count, I think, 6 on this
okay.
list. One of which you just touched on and elaborated on really well, which was take ownership.
Mm,
Stop thinking that this just happens to you and realize that you happen to it. That vitality, health, mindset shift. You are the driver. You are not the passenger. All right. You don't just be fat and sick because that's the way it is. Take ownership. We then have take your feelings and use your emotions as feedback rather than letting them guide your decisions. Try to sit outside of the emotions of yourself and wonder whether than just saying, this is how I feel. Say, why do I feel the way I feel about this? How is this making me feel? Question your own emotions. And within, in doing that, you become inherently a skeptic in your nature, which most intelligent, well thought people are. They are inherently skeptical of all the things around them. It's how we grow, it's how we get smarter. We are inherently
mm.
skeptical. Next thing, arm yourself with knowledge. People like us, people like Mind Pump, people like the other 10,000 influencers that put out high quality content for free on how to be fit forever, though I'll say we're probably the best. I digress.
Just not the
Anyway,
FDA.
just not the FDA. Those aren't content creators or fitness influencers. They're liars. I think it also takes becoming a self-starter. I've talked to many people at this point interested in coaching, and they just say, "I just need motivation." Well, it sounds to me like you're just too fucking lazy for to
It
respectfully.
lit.
Like you're not. I
Mm.
can't grab your hand and pull you through. You have to do the work. I can talk big words at you and make you feel good inside all I want, but you have to do the work. So become a self-starter. Just get
Yeah,
up
you have
and
to want it
move
for yourself. You have to be pissed a little bit.
a little bit
That's where I said
pissed.
the breaking. That's where I said the breaking of the hypnotic rhythm usually comes in pain. And you said something about be motivated. It take your emotions as feedback. Energy, emotion, energy in motion, um, cannot be destroyed. It can only be transmuted into fuel. If you're pissed off about where you're at, we even said some people need to be way more pissed off about where they're at. Like I'll have guys will be like, "I'm ready to join," 50 pounds overweight, and they'll go. I remember last Halloween because we're coming up on Halloween here. I remember last Halloween, I'll never forget this guy. Um, he was like, I kind of want to just do like one more hoorah after he had just confessed he has bitch tits and he is 50 pounds overweight. He's like, I want one more hoorah before I start. And I went, did you just tell me you have breasts and you are okay with waking up with that again for another 2 weeks without doing something about it?
After he just
Respectfully, if
professed how miserable he was.
I was like, I'm sorry, this is where we're different. If I woke up in your shoes, I would be in the gym yesterday. So, one thing that I think is very underrated, and this is where I think the cool part is about humans, we naturally figure it out if we get pissed enough. Here's what I mean by that. One, metal birds flying in the sky. We were pissed we couldn't transcontinental travel faster. So what did we do? Made flight possible. That's one example. We made it to Mars. Humans got pissed because we were still on this planet, I guess. And we're like, you know what? Mars sounds like a good idea. We made it happen. You're telling me it is easier for us to send a metal bird through the sky and then also launch an object into space and land successfully on Mars than it is for you to get fit. You are absolutely nuts. And this just goes to the power of human beings. And most people don't give themselves credit. I said this once before. Want to see a magic transformation hack? A magic trick, a magic body transformation trick. It's really this simple. Step one, get healthily extremely uncomfortable with where you are. Step two, you will naturally take care of the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Step three, if you have not moved on to number two yet, you aren't uncomfortable enough yet with yourself. You're too comfortable, literally. We've talked about, you've mentioned Chris Williamson's paradox before. He talks about,
Yep.
actually, could you share it? Because I may butcher it.
Yeah,
But I think this is
basically,
a perfect point.
it's a psychological concept or paradox, and I can't remember what the actual principle's called, but basically it states that some people would be better off in worse situations than they're already in. Someone may be in a relationship that's just fine, it's just average, and they think, okay, things are not bad enough to do anything about it. He or she is pretty good to me. We don't really fight that often. I'm just not totally happy. Or maybe that job is just, it pays well enough. It covers the bills. I don't really feel fulfilled. I'm not happy going in every day, but it could definitely be worse. The example he uses is that if it's less than a mile, people tend to walk, but if it's more than a mile, people tend to drive. So paradoxically, you'll get a mile and a half faster than you would under a mile walking, right? Because you're driving. So what's the lesson there? That in a worse situation, in a further distance, when there's a bigger gap, you're better off having the bigger gap. You're better off having a worse relationship or a worse job or feeling worse about yourself. Some people are 50 pounds overweight and they're just, well, I feel generally pretty crappy. My baseline's about a 5 out of 10 all the time.
It's fine.
It's
I'm cool with
fine.
it.
I'm unhappy, but I'm not unhappy enough. So those people will be better off getting really angry and really upset. So sometimes people are better off in worse positions than they are mediocre or average positions because pain, as you said earlier, drives change. And one of the things you actually mentioned too in our last conversation was that avoiding pain creates more pain. Because if you avoid the fact that you're fat, sick, tired, and don't know what to do about it, you'll continue to be fat, sick, and tired and continue to be in pain. So you can lean into the pain and feel a different kind of discomfort or pain in exercise, eating healthy, pushing yourself that leads to more comfort on the back end in the long term.
Yeah, I think that was I love when you mentioned it because it's that exact that what point that stuck to me was if you had to go a mile, you'd walk it, but if you had to go 2 miles, you'd drive it. Ironically, the further the distance that you see, the more inspired you are to take more accountable measures, more drastic measures.
Yeah, you
that
worded
achieve
that
it.
very well.
One thing too, thank you for that, and thank you for sharing. One piece in addition as well, really quick, is that what we don't want is for people to be like, I fucking hate myself. Then you're right, because I don't think that you can hate yourself into a body that you love. I mean, there's going to need to be a transition at some point into forgiveness, which forgiveness is actually one of the highest emotional states. To forgive yourself and to forgive others, it's kind of like this enlightened emotion. And to forgive yourself, this is where it starts before you guys. Those of you who are struggling with your health, your fitness, your weight, your mindfulness, and your journey, or at least you perceive a lot of difficulty or maybe even a lack of success in it, you have to, one, objectively, obviously be on point or at least objectively correct and accurate about your success and your failure. And then also, two, you have to allow room for you to grow. If it were simple, we would have been there by now. But what most people are experiencing is a veil or distortions of reality, as we like to put it, because the answers exist out there. It's not that you're dumb and we're struck by being obese and by being overweight or lazy or lacking motivation or being upset and depressed and anxious. It's that right now we're not seeing things clearly. And that's a beautiful lens to take on, because why? There is a lens that you can take on that is significantly more empowering and clear. What you have to do is raise your awareness. And if you can accept that maybe perhaps that you're not the best at dieting, and then go, I'm going to get better today. And then the next day, I'm going to get better today. And you reflect on your own feedback, you can remove the things. Here's the cool thing: regret is your guideline. If you
Mm,
regretted making a choice, for instance, that you know in the deep privacy of your own heart wasn't the best choice for you, let's say procrastinating on something, or you didn't have the healthy meal that you did, or you caved to a vice of yours, whether it be alcohol, whether it be hitting someone up that you shouldn't hit up, or whatever it is, something short, maybe something beneath you for right now. One of the, I think, the key behaviors of people that see long term success in fitness is that they, I don't want to say are quick to remove, but no matter how painful the thing is to remove, it's at the detriment, they still do it anyway. Because how are you going to expect something, a totally new result, without getting rid of the old feeling that you've kept? I mean, think about how, literally, how that weighs on you and the heaviness that that comes with,
yeah.
literally. I just feel like the people who continue on to succeed in fitness, especially the people who are positive towards themselves, where it's practical, and they reinforce good behaviors, but most importantly, they remove the negative ones to make room for the new ones, the new good behaviors. We're
Spot
not
on.
asking you to do more shit. We're asking you to remove the other shit. Most importantly, this starts with guilt, shame. Listen to yourself. Regret is your guideline. If you regret something that you did the next morning, look yourself in the face and go, am I worth to keep doing the same thing over and over? Because it's just a day that you keep perpetuating the same results, but asking for something new. You know what
You
I mean?
know, you know what else I think is a huge contributor to the way people keep themselves in these self-deprecating behaviors and vicious cycles
Mm.
is I think there's two words that come to mind that have been huge for me personally: ego and perspective.
Yes.
You know how big of
Yes.
a fan I am of the quote, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Change the way you look
Yes.
at yourself, change yourself. I think ego and perspective are everything. So when you think about, so many things in this life come back
Mm.
to our ego. People aren't necessarily the act of being broke, or being looking like a fool in a gym, or doing these things that you're, or eating right, the daunting task of learning how to cook for yourself and meal prep. People aren't necessarily scared of the act. They're not scared of the actual day to day of being broke, or the actual act of walking into the gym. They're scared of how it's going to make them feel if they don't rise to the occasion, if they don't make money, if they do something foolish in the gym and everybody sees. They will perceive themselves as less than they already are, and that's your ego talking to you. You're not necessarily scared of the act, you're scared of the potential outcome of feeling like less. And when you
Mm.
kill your ego, you're able to break free of that and do so much more with your life. Breaking free of my ego, if I didn't break free of my ego, I wouldn't be a runner, straight up. I would have never done a marathon, and I wouldn't be training for an ultra right now.
I think it would be super fair to say most people's real addictions are to their negative parts of their ego.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Healthy amount of ego
And
is good.
I would agree. And that's what roots you in. At least that's, if I'm going to pick a part of my ego to go towards. Because like what the ego is basically, it's like our own relationship to ourselves and who we think we are in some way. At least that's what's deeply embedded in our psyche or subconscious, everything. So I heard this put one way by my boy, Peter Crone, the mind architect, was that a lot of times the only thing sustaining negative habits and thoughts is the very energy that you give it. Like literally, the fact that it's almost kind of like thinking that you're bad about something in some way is validating to your ego. We talked about this quote before. Your ego will gladly sabotage your life just to prove it's right.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the greatest addictions, I'm no, I don't, and here's the cool thing. Also, you said ego and perspective. Most of us get very defensive when we perceive ourselves not to be good at something, not to be good at fitness, not good at dieting.
Yeah.
It must not be for me. And it's like in some way comforting to say that, because we're like, no, it didn't work for me because I'm this way. No, trust me. Like I tried. I promise. I tried. It's just not for me. Like I just can't do it. And it's almost kind of like reassuring because it's an answer that the ego kind of needs to validate why it is the way that it is. What's interesting about that is it's like if you show someone, I feel like shout out to Josh Hill, one of our clients who actually is a brilliant hustler and a sales guy. And he posed it like this. He goes, "Have you thought about asking people how they feel in that part of that lower state? Like, okay, so like, what's it like? What's it feel like to miss your protein goal? Who do you feel like you're letting down?" And I think that's a very soft, objective way to begin to analyze your own performance in a constructive way, as opposed to it must not just be for me. I'm not going to be a fit person. And as opposed to viewing it as a question, viewing it like this must not be for me? Question mark. How does that make me feel? Because it's supposed to inspire an answer out of you, which
Mm-hmm.
is sort of like the male-minded way of doing it, like to give an answer. But at first, also, I think this is where the cool part where the feminine plays in, where females are especially good at it, is being in tune with their emotions and just creating space for the very feeling itself, observing it. I think women may be more actually inclined inherently to truth, to based on emotions at least. Like they're very true to their emotions. Guys can kind of mask it in some ways, I feel like, and just go bury it. But I feel like the hard part is I feel like accepting it, but then knowing subtly it's true that you don't feel good about this. I think that's where the masculine approach of then going, come on, let's answer anyway. Let's do it anyway. I think that's where the two complementary energies and perspectives can really come together for someone being able to lift themselves out of a really shitty place where they
Right.
go create space, forgive, understand the emotion, and then comes the masculine part of now what do I do? Now what do I act? Because you know, guys, we go. So someone might complain about something, and we're gonna, what are you gonna do about it? But really, I don't want to say the correct approach, but this is also Peter Crone. Give him credit. He goes the more appropriate approach is cool. And how does it make you feel? And then it's like the truth comes out automatically anyway. And almost in some way, it's funny as a guy with a big ego. I'm sure you can relate to this in some way. If our egos get touched and someone challenges us, the first thing we want to do is convince in some way. I feel like at least most guys, we're like, no, do it anyway. And it's like almost more. Um, I don't want to say successful. It's almost more objectively accurate to begin to allow space for it first with forgiveness and then pad it with an action. It's
Yeah.
where you use both ends of it as opposed to just one or the other.
Well, if you can intertwine those energies you were talking about, and with that perspective shift, I think the examples of physical fitness are so good because you have two versions of yourself. I have two versions of myself that could have approached running. It could have gone on my first run and said, I suck at this, I hate it, and I hate the way I feel, I'm winded, I feel sick and nauseous, and stopped. Or I could have said, I'm winded, this sucks, I feel sick and nauseous, and that's okay. I didn't expect to have this figured out day one. And if you can take these challenges and shift your perspective, literally shift your altitude and look down at your challenges. And almost, I don't want to say derogatorily, but look down upon it like this is something I'll achieve rather than looking up at it as this daunting task. That shift in your
Mm,
perspective mentally, right? I look at the ultra marathon coming up as I'm looking down at it like this is something I will complete. I'm not looking up at it as this insurmountable task this insurmountable mountain I have to climb. Not
mm,
almost literally because there's quite a bit of elevation gain in it, but
mm,
that being said, when you can shift your perspective on how you perceive these physical challenges, you put yourself toward success. So combine killing the negative parts of your ego that feed that into that negative emotion, and shift your perspective and rely on your energies to guide you in the right direction, and accept that, yeah, it's going to hurt for a little while, but eventually it won't. And that's a good thing. So you're going to learn a lot about yourself on the journey away from that pain.
this is where habit kicks in for the positive. Because there's
Mm-hmm.
going to be a point where in the progress. So maybe if we want to really quickly, because before we could talk about this for hours.
Hours.
Well, I think one of these days we should do an interesting episode where we perhaps, well, we'll do it in person. We got an in person episode coming in about a month, and
Yeah,
we'll have
we're
some
gonna need to get
exciting
real heady in the in person episode, and real. It might be y'all. It might be a
pause.
2 hour episode.
Pause. Got him.
We're gonna get real spiritual with it.
Yes. Yes. We could obviously go on this for forever. What do you think we just talked about just now? The playing field?
I think we talked about how
That's step one, I feel like, the playing field, understanding the lay of the land.
Understand that I think we're teaching people that if you can understand we all exist in the same objective reality, that the lens you see it through is simply the key to your success. There is no real objective difference between you and I and anyone who's 50, 60, 70, 100, 150 pounds overweight. On the whole 80-20 rule, right? Assuming different life experiences and knowledge and accumulations, we simply see the world in a different way that allows us to maintain the physiques and the mindsets that we have. And when we don't assign self-limiting beliefs to ourselves, we've accumulated a certain degree of knowledge and experience through accepting the truths that we talked about earlier that allow us to manifest our mental identity in our physique, which is extremely physically fit. And you can do that too. It is simply a matter of shifting your perspective. You know, the analogy we used when we were talking a couple weeks ago, Yusuf, that I thought was absolutely baller and worth sharing was I even wrote it down almost for verbatim, is three tradesmen can walk into the same exact building and see totally different things that the other would not notice, right? So you go into a skyscraper under new construction and you have an architect, a carpenter, and an electrician. Or in my field of experience, I was the sales guy, I was the people person. I always had an engineer, and we'd walk into a new build for IT, and I'd notice the people. I'd notice their body language, their behaviors. How are they communicating with me? What did they think of me? The engineer's paying no attention to that. He's looking at the cabling. He's looking at the closets, things that I wouldn't think to notice. Take that lesson for what it's worth and apply it into life. We are the same. We exist on the same level playing field that you talked about, Yusuf. We exist in the same reality. We are no different than you. We simply have a different lens on. And our goal is to
Yeah.
help you shift your lens too.
Wow. That's amazing. I think that's probably one of my favorite things I think we've ever shared between each other. Is that if there's one thing that we could share with people, I would hope that it would be that.
I agree. I would completely agree. I remember you saying that and being like, oh, that's got to go out into the internet world forever.
Yeah. If you can't, I mean, this is, I think, what plants would say.
This is what people that didn't want you to believe you could get fit would say. They'd want you to think it was easy. But really, it's impossible. We're
Yeah,
lying.
guys. It's actually super easy. You just change your perspective, undo some childhood trauma. It's really not that hard. Guys, come on. You think you got here by being happy? No, we were pissed at ourselves for a little bit. For a while.
I was.
Brother, I was depressed. I was anxious as fuck. I was literally like, let's be real here for a second. We've both felt depression. We've both felt what it likes to be in a sucky body and a sucky relationship to it. But then you know what also happened? We got pissed. And we're like, if these dumb motherfuckers on Instagram can do it, why the fuck can't we? Like, straight up. If we can
True.
do it, why can't you? I always say it to people on the end of our consults. It's just like, I'll be like, yeah, and I promise you, like, I say this straight up, two things. One, I say, oh, you got goals. Cool. What are they? But be careful. You may actually get them. And people are like, whoa, wait, what do you be like? Yeah, like it's actually scary to do it. And then also, too, oh no, I just forgot. Oh, well. I'm not going to cut that part out. You guys are, oh, we're flawed. Yeah, like, I mean, look.
He just did it right there.
Yeah, we're flawed. Like, if our job, oh, this is what I say. Thank you. This ties, is reminding me of it. We're flawed. I'll be like, you do realize, because the people think it's so much harder than what it is. They give it way too much credit. And they'll go, oh, but I can't, there's no way I could get rid of Cheetos for forever. And I'm like, brother, if I showed you my camera roll of desserts that I've got in the past 6 months, you'd be losing your mind. You'd be like, you eat all of that. And I'll be like, yeah, there will be a day, I promise you, where you can wake up, have a leaner, sexier build to yourself, and a sharp mindset. You can wake up one day and be there. One day you will be there. And then, get this, you're going to have fucking dessert at noon. And everything's going to be completely okay. There will be a point in time where that exists. I promise. If our dumbasses can do it, why the fuck can't you? And if you think for a second, damn, that's actually kind of true. And if you didn't think it was true, be pissed off about it and then do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
Both approaches are healthy. So one, you can do it. And if we can do it, come on, so can you.
And if you didn't believe it, get pissed off and do something about it and do everything in the relentless pursuit of trying to prove us wrong. And you'll probably just get ripped as a byproduct.
This is also true. And again, I love saying this. Thank you for that amazing point. You're telling me it's easier for us to get on Mars than for you to change yourself
You're
and
telling me,
get what you
telling me we
want?
can build a spacecraft that can travel for months, but you can't have abs that every human has genetically under their body fat? Come on.
Everybody has them. That's the hilarious thing. Really quick, let's wrap up. One, we love you. Two, on behalf of the internet, Michael, this is at you. On behalf of the internet, behind me and in our waves and everyone else, that all these other antennas around the world that are disguised as human beings. On behalf of the internet, thank you for posting content on the internet, buddy. Happy birthday.
Oh, thanks, brother. Thank you for posting, and I appreciate the birthday wish. No other way I'd rather spend it than recording a podcast. I was telling you, man, today's been the dream day. I woke up, I trained, I went and I got some amazing gifts from Sarah. Very thoughtful, very sweet. She's been wonderful to me today. I went and got in the sauna. I did a cold plunge. I had protein, and now I'm recording a podcast. Now, if that is not a 26-year-old white guy's dream, I don't know what is.
They're
So
like
thank you.
they're like, this guy has got to be a fucking either living the dream or a weirdo.
Exactly. Yeah.
Both.
People are going to take that two
Both.
ways. Either I'm the weirdest person ever for that being literally my dream day, or people are like, man, that's my dream day too.
And you can do it. Really quickly before we wrap up the episode, Michael, what are your plans tonight? What are you going to do?
Gonna have just an intimate little family birthday dinner. Sarah's parents are rolling into town. They will be here soon, so this is why we're doing a shorter episode today, keeping it under an hour for the birthday festivities at one of my favorite local spots here. And Braves game tomorrow, so it's gonna be still gonna stay on track with my goals. I'm gonna hit a long run tomorrow morning and earn some dopamine, and then earn some leisure after that. So I'm excited for the weekend and looking forward to hitting the ground running Monday. Excited to share this episode with everybody too.
Yeah. Congratulations, man. Well deserved. We got one more question for you on behalf of the internet.
Okay.
We'll keep you on your toes. You're 26 today.
Hmm.
What is the most, to you, and maybe even to other people, what's the most ridiculous thing that you have in your routine and why?
Oh, that's a good question. The most ridiculous thing I have in my routine. Ridiculous to everyone or ridiculous to the average person who's not on this side of
Partly
the
in
fence?
perception of everyone. What the average person might look at you and go, what the why though?
I would probably say, oh man, that's such a good question. You may even have to clip a few seconds while I think about it. I do some really odd shit.
Why I
I've
asked.
started putting this hasn't made its way totally into the mainstream yet, so it may sound odd to many people, but I religiously
God.
put beef tallow all over my body. Like
You do.
I just get real greased up in beef tallow. For those of you who don't know what beef tallow is, it's literally rendered down cooked animal fat, which sounds really weird when you explain it that way, but I feel fantastic.
So you put it on your skin.
I put it on my face, my scalp, my shoulders. Hmm.
What does it do?
So you want the spark notes?
Yeah, tell me, Butterball. Butterboy.
I'm literally.
I like to, you remind me of, remember when Dwight and Michael go um, a father-son sales team to the father
Yeah.
and son suits, and he's like, please, Mr. Kitty, may I have little cat turds? I feel like this is he with beef fat. Please,
Yeah.
yes. What is it, Butterball? What is it, Butterboy? What? Tell us about this. What you rubbing animal fat all over you? Just giving you a hard time.
It is strange at face value to those who've never heard of it, but I've always struggled with skin issues, you dick. So that's what you get for making fun of me. No, I'm just kidding. I have really bad seborrheic dermatitis. It's an autoimmune issue, and it's triggered badly by lifestyle factors. So for all of you with eczema and all your flaky red faces that are constantly inflamed, clean your damn diet up. It makes a huge difference. But when
Yes.
I go out and have even one or two cocktails or eat out in a place where they may use lower quality food sources, it flares up. And for me, beef tallow has been an incredible moisturizer. It's got no chemicals. It's high in vitamin A or vitamin is it vitamin E? which one's vitamin A? I think retinol. I'm having a brain fart right now, but it's incredibly high in retinol, which is what moisturizer companies and cosmetic companies make you pay out the ass for. It occurs
Mm,
naturally in beef tallow in a form that is very molecularly similar to the retinol in our skin. So I've
mm.
noticed some great feedback on my skin from using it every night on my scalp, which are both problem areas for me. So if I told someone, just the average person walking on the street, I cover myself in beef fat every night, they would probably look at me and ask what was wrong with
Some
me. That's
this is actually this is a bodybuilder fitness influencer ritual. What I do is I put beef fat on me and I sacrifice myself to the beef gods to receive grass-fed protein synthesis. It's actually accelerant to gains, so I'll have you
yes.
know.
I put it on my face and I put it on my palms and face them upward towards the sky, and I pray for protein synthesis. That's what happens.
Fucking weird, man.
Dude, if you get
Okay,
my, I'm telling you, in
guys.
the evening, you get my hand hot enough, you could see her steak on it. It's like a greased cast iron.
Bizarre, man. Actually lathering yourself in animal fat is something interesting.
You should try it.
Shall we do our step check? So we do
Yes,
our
we
step check
shall.
for our fellow self-aware antennas. Let's
You lead the
fucking
way on
go.
this one.
Yes, so it is a rest day for me. I say that because my gym crush and I have coordinated a rest day, and usually I would be a little bit higher in steps, but actually not that bad right now. I walked in advance before the episode because I wasn't going to work out in the morning, so I just woke up instead of going to the gym, went straight to my treadmill and just walked for about 20 minutes to start my day, and then got outside. So it's 11:38 a.m. Keep in mind, we've been sitting for about 2 hours straight, nonstop. We would run our group call earlier with our women's community for an hour, and then we did an hour for this. So count it 2 hours. Okay, so it's 11:39 PST AM, and I'm at 4,300. But I was basically at 4,300 at think of it like 9. All right, so that was a
Yusuf's
head
starting to
start.
make
That was a head
excuses on our
start.
step checks because he's worried that my steps are just going to be
I'm
astronomically higher
already
than his.
insecure. Yes,
Well,
yes,
you're
I'm
in luck
already
today.
insecure.
There was no run, so it is 2:39 PST, and I'm at 7,314 steps.
Ha, little bitch. I'm just joking. Sorry, guys.
We stopped keeping score because I've. It's just not fair. I get 3 more
La
hours in
la
my
la
day by
la
the
la
time we
la
do
la
that.
la la. All
Anyway,
right,
thank
when you're on
y'all.
PST, it's going to be a game changer.
Yeah,
I'll be
yeah.
out here visiting.
You're.
It's going to annihilate you.
I'm excited for that. We're gonna record a lot of content, but thank y'all for watching and listening. If you're on Spotify, drop us a review for what you feel we deserve. We hope it's 5 stars. If you're listening to us on YouTube for the first time, please subscribe to the channel, like the video if you got something valuable out of it. As always, drop your step check in the comments. And if you want to be part of the coolest coaching community in the world, hit us up. There will be a link to book a call with us in the bio. And we would be excited, ecstatic, and honored to talk to you. And we look forward to seeing you in episode 9.
Yeah, 9.
All
We
right,
filmed
y'all.
like 15 of them, but we had to redo some, including this one. Fun
Yeah,
fact.
we had some errors, but I'm glad we did a birthday episode. This has been a great birthday. This
Yeah,
was a good part of it.
yeah. Well, dude, we hope you enjoy your birthday. By the time people are listening to it, you'll be a 2 days into 26-year-old club. So we hope you enjoy your time. And until then, to all of our fellow antennas, keep on going. Keep fucking going. Keep fucking going. We love
You
you.
got this. Bye, y'all.
We'll see you guys. Bye.